There are no agenda adjustments. We'll move down to 2, consideration of minutes. 2.1, to approve the minutes of the Board of Directors, May 8th, 2024, school board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Okay. We'll move down to 3, which is our public comment time. We do ask if you do have a comment to come right up to the microphone. Identify yourself and what town you are from.
If there's not a chair, there can't you just pull one up.
My name's Kat Ludwig. I am not from.
Speak into the
So they can
microphone.
hear it.
I know, it's not really close enough.
Oh,
Take the
my laptop.
microphone out.
Nah, I will make it through it.
Okay.
My name's Kat Ludwig. I am not from one of the 3 towns. I'm actually from Monmouth, but I was a teacher at Oak Hill High School. I'm on the docket later, but there's lots of layers to an onion. I wanted to read something to you. I know it's taking up some valuable time, but just a moment. I teach. Can we talk into the mic? I teach pre-K.
There
Oh,
it is.
not pre-K. I teach pre-algebra, algebra, and senior math. I have a couple of things from students. My background is K-8 certification, 7 to 12 special ed with a lot of highlights in behavioral. You guys will have by the end of the meeting the resignation of me in your inboxes. But this is from some of my students. Hey, Miss Kat, you were one of the only teachers that I have ever really understood and connected with. I felt like genuinely you were there for your students and actually gave a crap. Honestly, one of the best teachers I have had. Dear Miss Ludwig, I know originally you didn't intend to be a math teacher, but I want you to know that you're fantastic. I really appreciate the way you teach with honesty and ease. All my other math teachers failed to keep me engaged, and I could never understand things. You make it simple, and make sure to call us out when we are overcomplicating things. I really appreciate you. This one was, thank you, Miss Ludwig, for everything that you've done for me this year. This year has been one of the best years for me in math. I've always struggled in math for years. I finally understood it. It's going to be weird without you here next year. You just had a unique way of doing things that made it easier for me to understand and learn. And I want to express that this was written by a colleague in December, to whom it may concern. It's a great pleasure that I write this letter on behalf of Kat Ludwig. I've had the most amazing privilege of working with Kat over the past year and a half as a member of my math department, and I would have to say she's been a pretty wonderful and welcome addition. She's fit in perfectly with our family here at Oak Hill and seamlessly with our math department. She's set high standards and expectations for her students and has held them accountable. Kat works patiently with her students and really believes that every one of them has the abilities to succeed. She's adapted her math teaching style as needed and has been super flexible with our ever-changing teaching expectations and resources. Even though Kat began by interviewing for the health position here at the high school, we were in such desperate need of a math teacher that she agreed to help us out for a couple of years. Even though math may not be what she initially applied for, her knowledge of reaching the struggling student has been well honed. She found creative and hands-on ways to reach her students. She still managed to offer wonderful progressive professional suggestions and has contributed greatly to the math department by finding different programs, websites, apps to help all of us manage our way through new resources and curriculum. She's always thinking how she can better not only herself, but the entire department by sharing everything that she discovers. She has really been a great team player, and I know she would be a welcome addition to any department. Even though she's only been a part of this family for a short while, she's offered my department so much, and she will be very tough to replace. Her knowledge and willingness to try new ideas will be tremendously missed. She's always finding resources to help her students understand content more efficiently. She's always been prepared for her day, and she always approaches things with a positive light. It's definitely refreshing, and it makes people want to talk with her. In addition, Kat's fabulous ability to work well with her coworkers, to work with students is one of the best I've seen. Her patience is unsurmountable, and her students love her. Kat's personality and caring nature makes her easy to approach, and I believe that patience and ability to relate to students are difficult skills to teach anyone. I feel that they can or they can't, and she definitely can. In conclusion, I highly recommend Kat for any position she feels qualified for. With her knowledge, personality, consistency, and determination, she'll be a huge asset and will be guaranteed welcomed addition to your staff. My only reservation is how much we will miss her here at Oak Hill. She's by far one of the nicest people I've ever had the privilege of working with in my 30 years as a teacher. I wish nothing but the best for Kat as she pursues her newest endeavor. My resignation is not one that I would say I 100% agree with, if you catch my drift on that. My job as a teacher is to get these kids so they are prepped for the real world. These are high school kids that are coming in. Some of them, they don't want to be there. Some of them haven't eaten, some haven't slept, some have other struggles beyond my control, but if I can reach them through real world mathematics, which I incorporate in the curriculum, that's how I do it. My seniors have thanked me this year because I've showed them what a check register is. I've showed them how to do percents and decimals and slope in my pre-algebra and algebra class using real-world mathematics. I was given the senior class students because of the real-world mathematics that I teach, and I was given that by the department head. In real-world connections, mathematics are often cited as a way to raise the motivation of students. It can bring benefits such as facilitating a better understanding of mathematical concepts, motivating and improving students' attitudes towards mathematics. I hate to say it, but those kids are going to miss that. I'm going to miss them. But you'll have a copy of the complete resignation that has some concerns in it. But thank you for your time. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? We'll move down to 4. There are no petitions or communications. And 5, reports. 5.1, the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. I did write something up because I want to review something with about hiring. This is kind of a hiring update, and also about the Litchfield deed that was shared at the consolidation committee meeting today. So I just want to go over so that you know where we are with hiring positions, what the thought is around moving forward on positions with the referendum still upon us. Okay, so I just, because you're often asked the community, are they not hiring for this? Or this is putting all of us on the same page, okay, about what is going to be hired and where we are with the June 11th referendum. So obviously the best outcome would be that June 11th it passes and everything is hired and we move forward. So I just want to go over each location and what's open right now. So Oak Hill High School has a math opening, a health, social worker, librarian, and industrial arts. So we're in the process of hiring the math, hiring the health, hiring the social worker, and hiring the librarian. So we're collecting applications, and when we have applicants, they're sent to Marco, and Marco reviews them, and when he's ready, he sets up interviews and so forth. You'll notice on the industrial arts, we have a candidate. So I am meeting with a candidate in the next couple of days that they have recommended to me to be considered for hiring. So that's the steps. The committee does it. Marco selects the candidate to be recommended to the superintendent. I meet with that person and do an interview, get to know them a little bit, and then I recommend that person to the board to be approved. So that's where we are with the high school. For the middle school, we have the EdTech 3 library. So as you recall, one of the considerations was aligning with the pre-K 4. So our pre-K 4 buildings are EdTech 3s. You're required to have a librarian in your district, and so that's our goal, is to hire a certified librarian at the high school. And we have the current person in the library position at Oak Hill Middle School moving to a social studies position. So with that transfer, that will allow us to move forward with an EdTech 3 at that library. Then we have the functional life skills program, and we're hiring for that. And then we have 2 Ed Tech 3 openings, and we're hiring 1, and then 1 is on hold. And you'll see hold on 1 means waiting till June 11th, right? So if it doesn't pass on June 11th, June 12th, we'll be talking about what is our response to that. So I'm trying, you don't want to hire people and then turn around and say, okay, there was reductions, and now these folks thought they had positions, and now we're talking, okay? So it doesn't mean we won't hire, we just need to wait for that June 11th outcome. At Carrie Ricker, we have a 4th grade opening, a 3rd grade opening, and a music opening, and then Ed Tech 3. So right now, we're moving forward with hiring the Ed Tech 3, but the other 3 positions are on hold until June 12th, once we get through the referendum. Because remember, when we looked at what those reductions might be, that people will need to move around. So in order for people to not lose their job, because that's our number one goal, is every person that we have on our staff have a position. So this is just saying, okay, the board's got to discuss impact, so forth. The board makes different decisions, or we do something differently, we'll immediately hire, right? But we are collecting applications, just so folks know. At SPS, we have the open elementary position. So with the open elementary position, that's the position that you kept in the budget. We really have a high need on special education. So Nancy and I have been meeting weekly, maybe daily, about what's going on with caseloads and making sure everybody has support. So when we look at Carrie Ricker's caseload, Libby Tozier, SPS, what's best for students is to use that position for special ed position at Sabattis Primary School. Okay? So that position was out here, and so we would designate that for special education, and that we will post and advertise. Hasn't yet been posted and advertised. Then we have the Ed Tech 3 library position, which is split between Sabattis and Libby Tozier, and that position's on hold until we get through the referendum, because that was one of those positions that was on the position reduction list that I gave to all of you. Then we also are looking for a speech pathologist at SPS. At Libby Tozier, they interviewed today for the kindergarten position. And then district-wide, we have a candidate for the administrative assistant position to the superintendent. We will be posting and advertising director of transportation. And then we interviewed for the elementary IT position that's currently open. And we have an Ed Tech 3 ELL position that would be on hold in order for a hire or a transfer, depending on what the board does if the referendum does not go through. So I just wanted you to have big picture in case you're asked what's going on with positions, you have that information. Okay? So I wanted to make sure you had that. Sure, Laura.
I'm just curious on the process. So when there's an opening, can you just explain it gets posted, or because like some of these have a candidate, or we have a candidate because somebody went and recruited somebody, or they were posted and they applied, or
Good
and then
clarification.
My other question is there's no bus drivers on here or anything?
Right, because we right now have a full complement.
And so there's no need for like subs, and same thing with substitute teachers.
I
There's
didn't put all that on here. I
Okay.
went for the big positions. So
Okay.
yes, this is kind of like what's going on with the big positions.
Okay, and then the admin assistant to superintendent, is that replacing?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Michelle
okay.
O'Connor, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's all right. So how it works is if a position is in a collective bargaining, we post for 5 days internally. And so people internally can write us and say, I'd like to be considered for this position. And so principals too, this time of year are looking, where are things moving? So sometimes people are transferred before things happen, okay? But we post internally for 5, and then we post on serving schools. And so depending, like if we do internally and we have a candidate that we're moving, we do that and we don't post out. If we feel we want a larger pool of selection, we go to serving school. Then all the applications come here, and we share them with principals as they come in. They get an interview team together. And then once that interview team selects a candidate, it comes to here. So when I say I have a candidate, we're ready to hire. If they've gone through all of that process, and so when it says, have a candidate, we're either in the middle of talking about the contract, meeting with the person. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other side is the Libby Tozier property update. So as you've heard, and Doug, I'm taking one thing off your plate for when you do the subcommittee report out. There's been a lot of discussion on Libby Tozier and property and so forth. So what ended up happening is the town manager, Kelly, and I have been kind of going back and forth and talking out, is there documentation? There's deeds. How do you read the deeds? You know, when you go to superintendent school, they don't teach you all this about deeds and property and so forth. So getting all that material together, and we sent it to our attorney and said, could you look this over? So it went to one of the paralegals to do the investigating, and this was the response, which is currently, so I'll sum it up, currently the town owns the property, the school controls the facilities, okay? Which then comes into question, well, what about the academy? So we will have to go back around to that to say, is that an MOU between the district and the town because they're using a facility of which the school department has control over, right? The other thing is, what I told the subcommittee is there's more work that needs to be done in this area. So Sharon has information around why Wales property was turned to the RSU4. Sabattis's property was turned to RSU4, but the Litchfield was not. So if you see the law, when the district became RSU4, the board was to put in writing asking the towns to transfer the property to the district. That happened in 2 of the 3 towns. So one thing we discussed at the subcommittee is once I have all the information, I'll speak to Jill about putting it in an agenda item to kind of review everything. And then does the board want to request that transfer from Litchfield? Again, if it was, because right now we don't have the documentation around that request. Sharon's digging and finding some information, which is great. And Kelly has been very good about looking. So we may have been looking too far back because it looks like the transfers for the other 2 towns were done in 2011 and 2012. And we may have been looking at 2009 when it was first considered to becoming an RSU4. So there's other information to come on this. And then do we wait for the withdrawal and then handle it there? So that's something the board will have to debate when we have that as an agenda item. How do they want to move forward? So I want to make sure you're in the loop because you're going to probably hear this come out in Litchfield because Kelly has also received this information. Okay. That's my update.
Thank you. We will move down to 5.2, Assistant Superintendent Report.
Good evening. So I just wanted to report on 2 things. The first thing is that we are finishing our assessment window for most of our assessments. So although we only report NWA to the board, our students in pre-K through 12 are going through various assessments, from writing assessments to running records, which we're kind of figuring out where our kids' our reading level is, and we're celebrating the growth that they had. We were able to go to, I won't steal Michaela's thunder, but we're able to see some their celebration of learning, and you could see students writing from the beginning, middle, and end of the year, and their reading levels, and all of those things. So it's really, really nice. Also at the high school level, we hosted a lot of AP testing, and all of the testing that happens is really just a celebration of all the learning and the growth that the students have had. But in order to do that, it's a team effort from administrators to technology to everyone in the district that's trying, and teachers doing all of the time and energy to learn how to do the assessment, administer it correctly, and then also taking the time to analyze it. Our assessment window ends next Friday, and I know I have a team of coaches that are coming and starting to do that analysis, as well as our administrators that will dig a little deeper throughout the summer as well. On another note, RSU4 was awarded the Silver Award for PBIS in the New England. We are only there's only three districts that were awarded that distinction for PBIS in New England, and we were one of them. So, and that was from the hard work of Pre-K4, doing that work with the DOE to do that induction, and we're excited to have the middle school and high school join us, and so maybe they will win an award next year. So, challenge. All right, it's accepted. Okay. So kudos to all the hard work. I know Michaela and Dustin and Cherie have been doing a wonderful job of doing all the pieces and parts of the implementation. And it's really about the kids. It's about creating that important learning environment. And so it's that is for all. The idea is that you're creating a safe environment that everyone feels comfortable and is able to learn. So I know they've been tracking data, and I'm working with the PBIS coach now to do our end of the year report on the incidences compared from last year to this year. And she's going to create with all the data that we started to collect, she's going to create a report that she'd like to share with you on what the implications have been thus far. So that will probably come later this June. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move down to administrators report. First up this evening is the middle school. Jenny or Amy?
Hello. We've been very busy at Oak Hill Middle School. We have enjoyed welcoming students and families to a day in the life of an Oak Hill Middle School student on May 15th. The event showcased artwork students have created throughout the school year, and the evening wrapped up with a band and chorus concert in the gym. Everybody worked hard to showcase their learning in various ways, which you can see in the photos here. I have 2 slides, so I'll show you the second one. Math games were available for families to play, dioramas, research papers, posters, and lab experiments that students could share with families as they walk through their daily schedule. And you can just see an example of some of the amazing work that the students had to share with their families. Incoming 4th graders had the opportunity to meet Mrs. St. Pierre and Mrs. Waterman, along with 7th grade ambassadors, to hear all about the middle school and ask questions. They also had the opportunity to visit during the Day in the Life events and see what middle school was all about and meet the staff. Next week, we'll be hosting the incoming 5th graders for a step-up day and barbecue. Finally, today, the Climate and Culture Committee, along with Mrs. Collins, successfully carried out ACES Day, which is all children exercise simultaneously. The morning was filled with activities including lawn games, organized sports, Just Dance, crab soccer, and much, much more. The events included a fun game of staff versus student basketball, as well as a barbecue lunch with Mr. Ray and Mr. Jack helping man the grill.
Michaela?
All right, good evening, everyone. So I want to start off my presentation with thanking all staff. We had Staff Appreciation Week, where each day featured a special treat or feel-good message district-wide, making a huge success in thanking our staff. So thank you to all our amazing staff who go above and beyond every day. We had such a fun week celebrating you and hope that you felt loved and appreciated. On to the right, I want to go over some of the committee work that we have been doing at Sabattis Primary School. And these committees are tied to our school-wide goal content areas. And some of the focuses are letters, which is language essentials for teachers, reading and spelling, professional learning designed to provide early childhood and elementary educators and administrators with a deep knowledge to be literacy and language experts in the science of reading. Teachers are currently in the midst of completing Unit 1, the challenge of learning to read, and Unit 2, the speech sounds of English. For PBIS, we're finishing up year 1 of our PBS cohort, and we got an award. So a lot of great work has been done in creating a school-wide matrix, transitioning to Swiss, which is our school-wide information system, and doing deep dives into behavior referrals, and so much more. The committee is an extension of our PBAS team, currently focusing on developing a classroom matrix to share with staff on common expectations in each classroom for all students. For our math, this committee is an extension as well of our Math for Me initiative from the main DOE, as well as working with our NOEA groupings. Our math coach has made a huge effort this year to connect our curriculum and resources to student groupings, helping to develop small groups and extension and enrichment opportunities for our students. Now the fun. We had our grade level rewards. Grade 1 and grade 2 received enough raccoon tickets that are in the middle to fill up our buckets, and they had a luau party. As you can see, there was luau line dancing, there was the limbo, we had palm trees that you can see in one of the pictures in the little back area, but they were tossing beach balls, hanging out by the palm trees, getting some Capri Sun. It was a wonderful event. You had to be there. And tonight we had our celebration of learning and our book fair. We picked the hottest day to have the longest night, but it was it was well worth it. We had a great turnout, so we had so much excitement through the halls, and 91 families showed up, and that's not including who came to the book fair after. So 91 families coming to both the celebration of learning and the book fair. That was pretty wonderful. So thank you to our community and our families for always showing up. It makes a huge difference, and the kids loved just going through the hallways and showing off all the hard work that they've done, and they're very proud of their school and their hard work. So that was very touching tonight. I also want to say a huge thank you to Heidi Black for donating her time to make this book fair happen. A lot of time and effort goes into this book fair and making it happen, and she does a beautiful job. As you know, Sabattis Primary School has a very small library, but you can see in that picture up there, every single nook and cranny is used to make a nice space for the students. So thank you all for coming and being a part of it.
Up next is Dustin and Cherie.
All right. We'll start at Libby Tozier. Spring is in the air. Our pre-K and kindergarten students are enjoying lots of outdoor learning. We have new hula hoops, sidewalk chalk, and sand shovels. Our welcome addition to the playground the kids are enjoying, guided by their teachers. These young explorers are immersed themselves in sensory experiences, engaging with the sights, sounds, and textures of the outdoor environment. This Friday is our celebration of learning, where our hallway and classrooms will be turned into an ocean wonderland. It is quite the event for parents to come in. It's a little bit different. It's during the day, so it gives an opportunity for those parents that aren't able to make our evening events come during the day. We usually get a great turnout as well. The chicks are here. The chicks were too excited in pre-K and came a day early, surprising many staff and students. As you can see, the students and staff have fallen in love with the baby chicks. What is amazing about this adventure is that students learn so much from this experience, from learning how the chicks develop inside their eggs to being able to answer thought-provoking questions. The pre-K team makes the hatching an educational experience that will create very fond memories for many students to come. At Carrie Ricker, we had our art show, so we're going to see if this works. Okay. And here we go. View. Well,
Bottom view. On the left, underneath 2024.
go over.
Go across. Nope. We you guys know that we don't.
I don't think you.
Is it a spell? Is it maybe?
It's all right. We planned for this.
That's okay.
All right, we'll scroll down. Arts Night was a huge success with many families, friends, and faculty present. Smiles on students' faces could be seen from across the room as they shared their creations with loved ones. It was evident students took pride in their work as they were eager to bring their clay projects home at the end of the night. There were many helping hands that were involved in this art night. Many teachers, ed techs, the entire custodial staff, everyone pitched in some form or fashion, as you can see the amazing artwork the kids did with our art teacher, Jolene Perry. It was definitely a team effort. Students especially, and we'll get there, enjoyed the balloon archway leading to the concert. Many families used this as a photo op, and students were still talking about it today. Our PTA graciously provided the funds for our balloon archway, tablecloths, and flower arrangements. Mr. Johnson, our music teacher, held 2 separate concerts. If you've been to one of our concerts, you'll know they are packed. So we had to separate the 3rd and 4th grade to give a little buffer time in between because of the large amount of attendance we have. The audience was treated to an amazing singing and band performance. Mr. Johnson has been working hard with all students at Carey Ricker to develop their musical abilities in many different ways, such as xylophone, drum beats, and everyone's favorite recorders. The 4th grade band also has been practicing weekly. After school, they have band Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I went in there on week 1 to watch their practice with the guitars that they were using, and they were developing, let's say. At the concert, they did a performance of Chicago's 25 or 6-4 in Jimmy Eat World's The Middle, which was very impressive. It was amazing. Our book fair was another huge success thanks to the hard work of our amazing librarian, Jen Twaddell. Mrs. Twaddell was able to offer many varieties of books that help directly fund our library program through Scholastic. Mrs. Twaddell sent the following message to me after Arts Night. I am truly in awe of my colleagues' dedication to teaching their craft to our students. Both Wade and Jolene knocked it out of the park. I love the idea to serve refreshments as it really encouraged families to enjoy their visit in pride and ask of our amazing students and look at their creations. It felt like a real art museum. Also, to see some of our most reserved and shy students stand up in front of a large crowd and show their musical skills was truly amazing. Watching the confidence these kids have warmed this educator's heart and makes me so grateful of our community as these amazing teachers. So thank you, everybody, and we can't wait for next year. Oh, yeah, there's the archway.
That's the band.
Marco and Sue? Oh, no, sorry.
What? Do you want to sit here?
No. Yeah, I think thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for a few moments to share the most recent happenings at Oak Hill High School. Melissa Gagnon, our Director of Guidance, will speak about our MELMAC grant and all it has provided for our school community this year.
Thank you. So in the fall of 2022, we applied for a MELMAC grant and received that. It began in January of 23, and it will wind up at the end of this month. So this slide features all of the trips that we have been able to take as part of this grant. You can see there's a lengthy list of trips to business and industry, college campuses, a few more business and industries that we just wrapped up at the bottom. So our goal was for every student in the class of 2025 to have an experience going on one of these trips. Right now we stand at 77% of them have participated in a trip, and we acknowledge that some of them have gone on trips through their LRTC program when they may not have gone with us. So we don't have that data, but we're pretty proud of what we've been able to do. We have a monthly MELMAC moment. That's what our bucket is. So with the grant, we had a planning grant at the beginning, and with that, we bought these T-shirts for our faculty. And the front of it says, "My journey to Oak Hill includes mine's being an art teacher. Marco delivered newspapers." And the back asks the question, "Where will your journey lead you?" So we really try to focus on that, and as students have conversations with their teachers throughout the month, they can get these tickets that are in here, a big bucket, and it says, I am planning. And it's just the student's name and the teacher's name, and they come and drop these into our bucket. And every month during our Student of the Month assembly, we draw 3 student names. They get a prize for Fielder's Choice, Dunkin' Donuts, Subway. We try to stay like local area businesses. So that's our Melmac moment, and we do highlight talking to people about their pathways, their careers, and their future plans. We've had some alumni panels. We've had 2 that we featured alumni coming back, so current college students who are enrolled coming back, talking to our kids about what they wish they would have known, what they might have done differently, really tips for success, and some stories along the way. So that's been really great. We've had 2 health career panels featuring paramedic, a phlebotomist, a vet tech, nurse, physical therapist. I think there maybe was a dentist. I wasn't there one of those mornings. We had a second one featuring marketing. A student who works for the Live Work Me campaign came back in. She presented, and someone who's in real estate and working for another alumni working in the legal system. So really trying to round that out. Our last one was the one I was really excited about. It was a trades panel. So we had a student who's, I think he's 22. He's a master plumber, a couple of electricians, and someone working as a carpenter, and it really fell apart the day before. A couple of them had been called to a job. We were going to just have an electrician, and so we're going to reschedule that for the fall. But we've had really good attendance at these, and our students like hearing from students who they feel are just like them working in these careers. So that's been pretty powerful. We do those quarterly. And what else? A couple of financial aid information sessions that we've been able to offer. We have a great partnership with FAME, which is the Finance Authority of Maine. So they have come in and done a few presentations, and we partner with them along the way. So that really wraps up our trips. Our grant is running out. We're not sure of the future of the next Melmac grants and when those might be available. I have a meeting later in June. And I did recently send a letter to the Melmac Executive Board and to Wendy Alt, who is the director, asking if there was any way to perhaps have our grant extended, especially with the reduction that we've made to the field trip line. I worry about the purpose of these grants is to have these opportunities to be able to sustain them once the grant is over, and I worry that might not happen. So I have put some feelers out, just trying to see what we might be able to do. We have a little carryover that we can do maybe one trip in the fall, but I would like for these kids to continue to have these opportunities. So thanks.
Thanks, Mel. And just, to Mel's credit, I mean, she does a lot of the organization for these trips, and they're fantastic. I mean, we get kids out and to see what else is out there, and you can see, obviously, from this extensive list, that's what we're doing. Oh, you would like it back.
Well, yes, I didn't do this by myself, and that's what I failed to say at the very beginning. We have a great Melmac team. We meet once a month during our PLG. We have a partnership with what is Karen? She's our grant coach. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. But we've had a great success of teachers coming, and it's been many hands making, this happen. I had them all cutting leaves for our tree, which I forgot to mention. So they came in the other day, and I gave them a trace out and some scissors and said everyone has to cut 10 while we have our meeting. But that tree features, what's the next step on the journey? And every senior has decorated a leaf on that tree. Some are going into the military, some into the workforce, some to colleges, apprenticeship programs. So that's what that is also. But if you ever are looking for someone who needs an alumni, just ask Angela Roy, because she seems to know what every single Oak Hill alumni is doing and how I can get a hold of them. So a big shout out to her and the rest of the team. And my apologies for not mentioning that before.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, so back to me. I'd like to take a moment and highlight a recent article in the Sun Journal. You all right? Okay. The article is a series on working and is the focus of our very own Armin Couillard. Armin is a custodian at the high school and has been with us for quite some time. He has a friendly face who's always willing to help and keep our grounds and athletic fields in great shape. And I took a couple screenshots here to place in the presentation, but I'll send you guys the PDF of the article so that you can check it out if you haven't seen it already. But it was a nice nod to Armin and all the things that he's done for Oak Hill. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, celebration season at Oak Hill High School. We hosted a spring concert under the guidance of music teacher Gary Fuller, which featured selections from chorus, band, and rock band on May 10th. On May 11th, we held our junior-senior prom at Lost Valley. Students enjoyed the photo booth, DJ, and many, many snacks that were provided. They were well-behaved, which I truly appreciate. Cap and gown photos, which you'll see on the next slide in just a moment here, for seniors happened on May 17th, which was amazing. Seniors were excited to, sorry, just got the wind blown here. Seniors were excited to receive their graduation regalia and get their class photo taken. The senior class the senior class trip took place last weekend, which was a success. Students attended level 99, which is an escape room venue, the aquarium, and Six Flags over the weekend. The picture you can see here in the bottom of this slide is our Olympia leaders attending their end-of-year celebration at Bates College. Seniors in the group received their purple cords as part of their graduation regalia, and one of the students received a scholarship, which was excellent. And let's see, last night, JMG held their first ever closing ceremony. So students received their $500 extended learning opportunity checks and celebrated accomplishments for the year. And it was really nice. This picture is one of our seniors just talking about everything that he's learned and the opportunities that he didn't have prior to being in JMG and that he may not have had if he had not been part of the program. And then, ladies and gentlemen, next week is all about our seniors, senior awards assembly, class night, and of course, graduation next Saturday, June 1st. It's pretty wild to think it's come to this point. Here we are. Really excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to 5.5 with Destiny and Lily.
Hello. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the seniors and how it's their last week. I want to talk about our senior assembly next week, which is basically a mock graduation, but we all also get to move up to our next grade. So I'll be the senior. And this technically was Destiny's last meeting, but she wasn't able to make it because of a drama club. They went to a play. It was great for her, so I hope she had fun. And then we had prom on May 11th. And I just wanted to say a thank you to all the teachers that took time to chaperone. It was really great. It made it possible for us to have a prom, which was nice. And then I wanted to talk about Olympia Snow because, well, I'm in Olympia Snow, and I got to go and see all our seniors get their cords, and it was amazing, and they all did great. And our senior that got the scholarship, I don't know, just congratulations. She did great. And then I wanted to mention how OHLA put on a teacher appreciation week, and we made goodie bags and wrote notes to all of our teachers.
Thank you, Lily. All right, and then we do have another report. Our Dropout Prevention Committee has a presentation for us. Well, you're presenting,
You're
right?
presenting.
You're going to speak, right?
I have an update.
Okay.
I hope you're not disappointed. I almost just back walked out of here. So we have been meeting for dropout prevention, and this year the team really put a lot of focus into creating a comprehensive dropout prevention plan, which we'd like to add with approval to the RSU4 website. The plan aims to acknowledge and leverage the resource and tools available to prevent dropouts from pre-K through 12. We're committed to spreading awareness among students, staff, families, and the community. The report highlights our key initiatives and supports in place to support all students within RSU4. Some key components of the plan is targeted interventions, support systems at various educational stages to address and mitigate dropout risks. A concerted effort was made to increase awareness of various resources and protocols among stakeholders, students, staff, families, and the broader community. We focus on bridging school events, opportunities to ensure that students receive continuous academic and social emotional support as they transition from one educational level to the next. This initiative aims to create a seamless support system that addresses the unique challenges students face at different stages of their education. I do want to have a few acknowledgments. A special shout out to Mel Gagnon for creating exit surveys for students. These surveys are instrumental in collecting data on why students may be dropping out. The insight gained from these surveys help us understand the diverse needs of our students and allow us to continually evolve and improve our strategies. The dropout prevention team's efforts this year have laid a strong foundation for preventing student dropouts across all educational levels. The dedication and hard work of everyone involved are appreciated, and the initiatives implemented have had a long-lasting impact on our students' educational journeys. Thank you to all the team members for their time, effort, and commitment to supporting our students. A few members that are here is Robbie. Thank you very much. Jim Palmer, who has been instrumental in dropout prevention for many, many years, along with Marco and Mel, and Jenny Hudner, who are all here tonight. Some next steps of the Dropout Committee are continuing to refine and implement the Dropout Prevention Plan, to maintain an open communication with all stakeholders to ensure ongoing awareness and engagement, utilize data from exit surveys to inform and adjust our strategies to meet the evolving needs of our students. And thank you once again for all of your support and commitment.
We'll move down to 6, old business. 6.1, to approve the second reading of the following policies. IMB, teaching about controversial and sensitive issues.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Ooh, it's not on.
How about now?
There you go.
I just wanted to urge my fellow board members to vote no on this so we can send it back to committee. I have spent the last couple days going through this policy again, and I've still found a lot wrong with it. I think we can do a lot better. And I'm prepared to elaborate if anybody would like me to.
Anyone else?
I would like to have him elaborate on it.
Let's go.
Sure. So this first, I guess it would be the second paragraph, this section under teaching controversial issues sounds extremely preachy to me. We don't have a lot of policies that have an introduction such as this one, and I think it could be narrowed down. I don't think it needs to be such a long introduction to the policy. So that was one thing I would try to make some changes to. Under A, section A, number 1, I still have a problem with this right of the teachers. I feel like teachers should have some rights too. It just doesn't have to be focused all for the students. I mean, again, we're seeing teachers exit the profession because of some of the things that are being forced upon them, and I think we could do a better job of maybe changing that in a way so that they feel like they have some rights as well. Let's see, 3. Yeah, 3 just seems very opinionated to me. I would change number 3.
I'm sorry, under A.
Yeah, sorry, A3.
A3, okay.
So, specifically, it says the study should be objective and scholarly with a minimum emphasis on opinion and maximum emphasis on facts and critical thinking. But which side? Like, what facts? Like, we mentioned last time about evolution. Well, you're talking about like several theories. Are we talking about just one theory, or are there multiple theories? You can teach different sides of the same issue, I guess. But this doesn't outline the requirement to do that. So you could still just objectively teach facts based on one suggestion. C1, again, we're talking about the teacher selecting content and the maturity levels, and I have a problem with there not being any oversight as far as whose decision it is for maturity levels. I mean, we're seeing some controversial issues being taught in 5th grade, that perhaps maybe should wait, and there's no oversight to that. We don't see it. I haven't seen it in this school, but I've heard about it in the news where there's other school districts that are having issues with things being taught in certain grade levels that maybe shouldn't have been, and it's left up to the teacher. And I just feel like there needs to be some oversight there when you're talking about teaching controversial issues. That's all.
Anyone else? Robbie?
Yeah, in the past, when policies have come up for discussion, and that's why we have a first reading and a second reading. And the first reading has always been historically where we make any changes that we feel might be made, and they're agreed to under discussion on that. And then by the time they come to second reading, they should be pretty much finalized. So I don't get this idea of, you can vote against it. You can vote against any policy you want. But to now be coming up and wanting to throw things in under the second reading is probably out of context for me. Because, like I said, first reading is for any changes we might have, and then second reading is it's been gone over, it's been discussed, and we're moving on to pass it. So in the future, if people have grammatical changes or people have things they want to or they don't like in the policy, first reading is when they should be brought up.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I will be voting no as well, and I urge others to. I think if there's opportunity for discussion, I think it's appropriate to have discussion at that time, as we kind of discussed at the last meeting, this is the time to discuss it. A lot of these issues were previously brought up and concerns, and I do kind of also encourage people to attend the policy committee meeting if they feel that that's an opportunity to have a discussion about it. And I think there's is there a post, Chrissy, on the website of what topics are coming up at what time? Yes. So that just might be helpful to kind of revisit too, because I do feel kind of blindsided sometimes, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that this was kind of coming up for a topic. So I appreciate kind of within the committee meetings, if there's kind of the layout of that, it could be noted in the minutes that those things are coming up at future discussions at the next policy meetings. But so, yep, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? All right. Seeing as there's no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Good. All those not in favor? Did you get that? Okay. And all abstaining? May we know why, please, for the record?
I think I'm still on the fence, but I don't want to clog discussion now with it. If we have a second reading, I would want to hear the discussion more. If it passed, then let it pass, I guess. I'm on the fence, I guess. Enough so to abstain.
It passes. Thank you. Next policy is IMBB, exemption from required instruction.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Go for it.
So in the second paragraph, required to adopt ideas with which they disagree, but such disagreement alone is not sufficient basis. I feel contradictory.
Yeah, it did shut off. It does sound like
You're still.
Oh yeah, I had it turned on.
Oh, now we
it
can
shut
hear it.
itself off. Okay, sorry. Let me start over. So in the second paragraph, it states students and their parents' legal guardian cannot be required to adopt ideas with which they disagree, but such disagreement alone is not a sufficient basis to be exempt. So that's just a contradictory statement. How can it be not be required, but then disagreement alone is not sufficient basis to exempt? That's just a contradictory statement. So down here under the consideration request for exemption factors, not a real big fan of B, whether the course of instruction is required by state law or policy. The state law or policy does not trump the 14th Amendment due process clause in the Constitution for parental rights. C is really strange to me. Whether an exemption will adversely affect the instruction provided to other students, which I don't understand how that happens. How can you infringe on the rights of one student in order to protect the rights of others? That's really not how that's supposed to work. And if a student elects not to go through with a piece of instruction, how is that even impacting other students? That, I think, should be changed or removed. E, evidence regarding the sincerity of the belief on which the request is based. Why do we need to provide evidence why somebody might feel uncomfortable with a piece of instruction? Why is that a requirement? Again, I'm gonna point out. So F, whether the school has legal obligation to accommodate the exception. Of course, we have a legal obligation to accept the request. It's in the Constitution. Again, I'd like to read that, but anyway, you guys can look it up. On all the way at the end, the very final paragraph, where it says, when requests for exemptions are made, philosophical, moral reasons, a parent or guardian who is dissatisfied with the principal's decision may appeal to the superintendent, whose decision shall be final. I don't agree with the superintendent's decision being final, given the fact that Supreme Court case law lays out the fact that it's parental rights, not superintendent's rights. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing as there's no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? All those not in favor? Thank you. Thank you. We will move down to 7, new business. 7.1, to approve a one-year contract for Michael Jack, Dean of Students, from July 1st, 2024 to July 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Laura?
So I am a little bit, I tried to find like the job description of the Dean of Students because we also looked at moving this to a PBIS specialist, and with the budget as it is, can you help me with when this contract expires?
Yep, so the contract, the current one expires June 30th.
Okay.
And this is being funded through the 5th grade position at the middle school.
Okay, and then we were talking about moving it to a PBIS specialist, but we decided not to.
Correct. As you went through the discussions, there didn't seem to be traction around that or the dean, and so we just kept the dean. And the change will be, which is not really a change, it's based on the 181 days. It's not an administrative position. It's student days, the workshop days, and the salary's been adjusted so on that.
And so one of the things, if I remember Mrs. Waterman, when she came and talked about something at a meeting, was the importance of having that for
Bar or PBIS?
No, for like the kids that need intervention to
Mhm.
meet criteria. What is that title? What am I talking about?
Like the
Do you
tier
know?
1, tier 2
Yeah.
interventions.
Yeah. So like to meet their learning
Mhm.
requirements
Yeah.
and goals, it needs to be like an administrator, and how our administrators are kind of taxed with so much currently.
Mhm.
Would this position still be able to be that administrative support for those?
This position's not changing. What Mike Jack does now, he will continue to do. This
And-
is what he is doing right now.
Okay. And do you have maybe just top 5 things? Because I couldn't find, like, I know personally, because my kids go to the middle school, but do you mind just sharing maybe 5 things that he does?
Yeah.
Out of the
Why don't we have
500?
Jenny? Jenny, why don't you come up and share the top 5? I'm sorry to put you on this spot, but you can speak. You live it every day with Mike Jack.
And then maybe just why it's important, as the contract is technically good to the end of June.
Mhm.
Maybe you can help me just understand why it's important to do this now instead of June 12th.
But why wasn't this one held? Because it wasn't on the reduction list. You know, what I've held is what I put in that slide around positions. So that position was not there. So we're moving forward with that position because for the very things you said, how important that position is in supporting the middle school. So Jenny, yes, you do have that document, don't you?
Yes, I'm just currently
Yeah.
looking for that document
Yeah.
that probably, I mean, I could kind of go off the cuff and tell you what we do on a given day, which would change every given day. But I was trying to look for the document that we supplied at one time. So Mike is more.
Kathy's got it.
Oh, yay. Am I not talking in the microphone?
Do you pull it out? We'll pull it up for you. But yes, it was that document that showed the 3 roles. So that's what they're going to pull up for you.
Kathy, do you have it?
Yeah, she's putting
Oh.
it on so they can see it.
Perfect. There you go. So, Mr. Jack, the Dean of Students, does a lot more of the Tier 1 interventions. He is out in the hallways, supporting teachers in the classroom. He's checking in with students on a daily basis. He has quite a few students that he checks in with. Just has a conversation with, sees what they does. He supports PBIS in a lot of ways, even if it's not the PBIS specialist. We all 3 support PBIS in trying to just kind of let students know the great things that they're doing, let the staff know the great things they're doing. How can we support? Mr. Jack is often seen at recess to help out with recess duties in the cafeteria. We also, all 3 of us will help out, whereas I kind of will be more at the meetings, the 504, the IEP meetings. Ms. St. Pierre and I quite often have our time taken for that. Mr. Jack is more kind of boots on the ground, always in the classrooms. Does that help? Although that doesn't mean that Ms. St. Pierre and I don't go in the classrooms just as much, but they're
Right, different responsibilities.
different responsibilities.
Yeah, thank you. And this is, and the cost of this is being renewed as the contracted was negotiated, being like the next tier and things.
Yeah,
So
what, he has his own contract.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All right, seeing as there's none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Seven point two, to approve a motion that the vote entitled "Vote to Authorize Assurances of $750,000 Revenue Anticipation Note" be approved in form presented to this meeting, that the secretary file an attested copy of the said vote with the minutes of said meeting.
So moved.
Second. Katie, can you explain, please? What is it?
Samantha, do you want to come and?
Sam's not here.
Yeah, she's right there. She came in. She was a little, she scooted in. Nice, yeah.
I didn't see
I
her
peeked
back
to see
there.
if she had come in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She's not in her
Sure.
usual
So-
spot.
This agenda item is an annual business item that we do that has to do with our finances. In essence, what we're asking is for authorization for us to secure a temporary annual line of credit, right? It's a revenue anticipation note, so it's a very specific line of credit. The purpose of that is if our revenue streams slow or we find ourselves in a position where our cash flow is not good and we need to cover on a temporary basis, expenses such as a payroll for a payroll period. So we do this annually. The vendor that we are working with was able to secure the same interest rate for this. The interest only applies if we need to borrow against the revenue anticipation note, which we haven't done historically. So you would think of this as an insurance policy for our revenue.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Nicole?
Can you tell us what that interest rate is, please?
Yes, ma'am. 6.85%. I'm just double checking. 6.85%.
I have a subsequent question. I'm assuming it's unsecured line of credit, or?
That's tricky. I mean, it's a revenue anticipation note, so the security is that we anticipate the revenue coming from our streams that come from our tax base. So like our state subsidy, our local taxes that we receive, that's the security.
Right, so just basically the promise that it's going to come in. There's
Exactly.
nothing else securing.
Yep, exactly.
In case
It's not up
we
against anything
borrow
else.
and nothing comes in. Right.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing as there's no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. 7.3, to authorize the Finance Committee Chairperson to move no more than 5% between cost centers to ensure that no cost center is overdrawn. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Laura, sorry, Nicole. First person I saw was.
Well, she sat in my seat tonight, so.
That's what it is.
I'd just like to make a grammatical correction. Insure is only used when you're talking about an insurance policy. And in this situation, it's ensure, so it's ENSURE. Thank you. It's very common. I see it all the time working in compliance. It's even in the bank, and our regulator does it too. So it's okay.
Oh, sorry, that was heavy. So I just have a couple of questions on, do we have to do that often, move to cover cost centers? And should it be maybe a 2%? And if it's more than that, it has to come to the board? What happens if it's, okay, so first question, do we do that often?
Every year.
And if it's more than 5% being moved, what happens then?
Can't be, statute only allows 5%.
So if I proposed a 2%, like what would happen if it was more than 2%?
If I may. So if it was more than,
I'm not giving you mine either.
so you can move no more than 5% from any cost center to another cost center. Typically, the monies that we have left over come from unfilled positions mostly, so they're in the Article 1 point. And if we limit it to only 2%, we might not be able to take enough from other cost centers to split it out. So if we limited ourselves to only be able to move 2%, we might not be able to move enough money into a cost center that needs it. In the past, we've had that with special ed or transportation, have been ones that have needed the money. We are not allowed by statute to be in the red on any one of our cost centers. So that 5% allows us to make sure that we are not in the red. And, you know, there have been years when we've had to move 5% from one and 2% from another into a cost center to make it balance. So that's, I wouldn't limit it down to that. Was written in the statute for a reason, knowing that that's how things kind of work. And we have had to use that whole 5% on more than one occasion.
Does that answer your question, Laura, or do you have more?
I was just reading the statute on the website that Nicole pulled up. So during the year for which the budget's approving using cost center summary budget format, the regional school unit board may transfer an amount not exceeding 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center to another cost center or among other cost centers without voter approval. So if we had to move more than 5%, we would have to get voter approval, is what that's saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a bunch more questions, but I don't want to take up a lot of time. But is it because we're not budgeting in the right cost centers correctly, or what makes things go more than 5%? Like, because the revenue coming in?
No, it's expenditure. You know, remember, we planned this budget in March.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what can happen over 8, 9, 10 months? So it all depends on what might have happened that we didn't plan for. So, Samantha, can you talk about where we are and what cost centers you're looking at that may need this support?
I was like, it is okay if nobody else has questions, because I can just maybe learn over the next few
No,
months. Okay.
we have the answers.
Okay.
No worries.
And to be fair, Laura, this was one of the items on our agenda from the finance and facilities that we didn't get to last time. So we would have discussed it at that committee,
exactly.
like where we were, projecting for the year. So cost center 2, special education, is often a cost center that needs a little love and attention at the end of the year. And in previous years, we've used excess cost center 9 maintenance funds to cover that. I mean, this is my second year going through it, so I can't speak to the history of this since I've been here. But I'm assuming Mr. English is accurate in saying that sometimes there is cost center 1 funds from unused or unfilled positions that will cover. That's the position we will likely be in this year, is having cost center 1 and potentially cost center 5 be able to cover a little bit of some others. Cost center 9, we will not have an excess. We are scrimping and doing everything we can to do appropriate maintenance and repairs to our buildings and things like that towards the end of the year with those funds. So we will definitely be working closely. Doug and I will be working closely towards the end of the year, and we'll talk through where we're at, and we'll continue with our projections as we get closer to the end of June.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. 7.4, to approve authorization to apply for and accept grant monies, providing acceptance will not result in the expenditures of RSU 4 funds or exceptions of continued staff additions.
So moved.
Expectations, sorry.
That's okay. So moved.
Second.
And discussion. Can somebody explain that to us?
Didn't we already vote for this? Or is this a different one?
It's different.
Okay.
Bob?
And wasn't this an article at the budget meeting and passed by the voters? So we have to have it too?
It's one we've seen as a standard one that you do annually.
That's true. And years ago, we specifically added the part about there was no expectation of continued or increasing staff that would continue past the grant, because that had happened. We'd get a grant, we'd hire somebody for it, the grant would run out, and they just added a person to the staff. So
That's probably not in the article that you approved. This is the additional.
the article that we approved said as long as it didn't cause us to expend any funds not already approved for expenditure in the
Correct,
above.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it didn't talk anything about adding staff positions.
Mhm. So this is one we see, it has been a common one that you've approved every year.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at the presentation tonight, this raises some questions about the MELMAC grant that we heard about and the expectation or the intent, I will say, that we would continue those activities post-grant. So how does that play a role in the grants that we look for and choose and accept?
So how I see it is it's not expected. I mean, you would have to approve it, So as she said, it's not like you guarantee that the $20,000 Melmac grant money will be in the budget next year. So you have to protect that. You would say, no, we're not going to be supporting that. The expectation means it's not expected like you will put it in. You see what I'm saying? Like, there shouldn't be an expectation that when you accept the grant, that the board will continue to fund it past the grant. That is the board's decision as to whether you would or would not.
Okay, so that's intention, like exactly what it says here, but there may have, it was the grant that said we had.
Some of the grants will say we're funding this with the expectation that the board would consider continuing the funding.
Okay,
Some
so-
grants do that.
So if that's the case, should those grants be applied for and accepted then? If there's, that's quite an assumption.
The board would make a decision whether you would fund when the grant runs out.
I feel like it's contradictory to what we heard and what the Melmac grant said and what this says.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you make a good, you make a good point, and we would have to discuss whether we wouldn't apply with grants that has anything sustainability, and you would lose grant funds, yes. So you're right, you might say, we don't want that stipulation.
Right, but you may lose the opportunity to obtain it again because you didn't follow through with the original stipulation. So understanding it's not that they can require it or
exactly
they have any authority over it, but they're definitely going to look at us differently with the next application should we not continue. So I think it's kind of an unfortunate expectation, even though we're saying it's not an expectation, right? It's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mel, you'd like to?
Mel would like to comment?
Go ahead, Mel. Come on up.
She said only if they get.
So this is our third or fourth Melmac grant. We've had different ones through the years, some ranging for $60,000, some being $5,000. This one was $19,000. And we look for ways to sustain this. So we can have alumni panels, and that doesn't cost us any money. Right now, we've given a gas card for those presenters that come in, take time out of their day, the students coming back. We would just have the alumni panels without that. That's something we can sustain moving forward. The big thing is the field trips. We can't always do that. There have been years when we've done field trips without a grant. When I first came to Oak Hill back in 99, 2000, they were doing field trips then, and we didn't have a grant. And we went monthly, and we had lots of bus drivers. We weren't the RSU at that point, but we were able to do some of those events, and that has changed, through the years. Sometimes we can do trips. Kids buy their own lunch. Through this grant, we've had the opportunity to pay for their lunch on campus. But knowing how the executive board works, my relationship with Wendy, I don't have any worry that we wouldn't be approved for a grant going forward. I write an annual report. I'll do that this summer and talk about like the challenges, the successes, what we're able to sustain on our own, and maybe some of the things that we can't. And I can let you know we're not alone with transportation. All of the schools that have had grants have struggled with transportation and the cost of transportation, and that's really what a lot of these grants were built around, this cycle. And that's what it helped us with at this point. And we may get to a time where we can do more field trips and we can afford to take students, and sometimes the colleges will pay for our lunches. So I feel like there's always a way to make it work, and I would hate to not be able to provide these opportunities. I understand your question. I'm not personally worried about it, but I understand why you would ask it. But we've had really good success over the past 10 years with Melmac.
Jill? Yeah, I think the biggest the easiest explanation for this article would be we don't want to apply for a grant that we have to have matching funds for, right, Bob? Because in the past, what would happen is 15 years ago, 10 years ago, we would apply for grants and then find out we have to have $20,000 in matching funds. And this article says we can't do that. We can't expend any money outside of the grant. So we can get all the grants we want as long as it doesn't cost us, we don't have any matching funds to it. So I think that's the easiest explanation for this article.
That's part of it. We didn't have that 20 grand in the budget.
Right, because that 20 is not in the budget, so consequently, you'd get a $50,000 grant, and you had to have $20,000 in matching funds for the grant. So that's when this article came about, and that's when we stopped doing it.
Thank you. Just ask a question on that. Would we be able to, like, if we wanted to, the music program wanted to get new equipment or things, and they got a $20,000 grant, would we be able to propose, and it was a matching one, not maybe this year, but in the following years? Like, could that be a proposal that we want new sports equipment? Like, I know Brian at one point was talking about a turf field. So, like, you know, is this only good for a year? This is every year we vote on this?
Okay, there's two options. One, you don't vote on this because you have an article that was approved. That could be one. Two, a grant that would require matching would come to the board and you could approve it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Outside of this. So
yeah,
if this-
exactly. We could come and
Yeah.
say, we have this great opportunity.
Okay.
We have a matching thing. We believe we do have the funds to do it. We would like your approval before we submit
Okay,
it.
I just wouldn't want to limit it
Yes,
because we never
I
know,
hear you.
right?
Right.
Like 8-10 months later.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
What you vote in for a motion, you can change in a following one with another motion.
Exactly.
Not locked in that we can't change.
Any other discussion? Seeing as there's none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Committee reports. We will move to Finance Facilities Consolidation Subcommittee.
Okay, that would be me. Let's see, we approved minutes. We discussed the public tour of the Libby Tozier and Sabatis primary that's going to happen on May 29th between 5:30 and 8:30, just to send that out there. We discussed the update on the Libby Tozier deed, but superintendent discussed that. I wrote in my notes. We discussed closure options again, because that's kind of the point of the committee, is the consolidation subcommittee, was do we close one or the other or none? And it seemed like we're kind of leaning towards both. I don't know if, just to kind of throw that out there. Central office also came up, just to throw that out there. And we have one more meeting, and that's next month. That seems like that's going to be a big one. So I would tune in next month to see how that one turns out. Yes, Laura. Oh, is there?
Laura.
I did just have a question that I thought of was how are we advertising that May 29th at 5:30 the public can visit either of those schools?
Either or. Doug?
Oh,
You know?
No, so we brought flyers to the public meeting and gave those out. We put them on our Facebook, and I'll make sure to send it out. And I believe I sent it, well, I'll send it out again to the towns, and they can post it on their social media.
Do we ever put anything in the paper as well for the community members that aren't on social media?
It costs, it's significant. Yeah. What about the Gazette, the Lisbon Gazette? I don't know about the Lisbon
I don't know if it
Gazette.
could get out that fast now, but just kind of thinking of like the
Yeah.
budget meetings and stuff. I don't know
Mhm.
what a little,
I didn't even think of it.
Yeah, I didn't think of the Gazette. I didn't know, yeah, so.
I mean, just advertising.
But I can also reach out to Chris Wheelock and put it, and maybe he can put it in the paper as part of a story.
Yeah, it's basically what we used to
Right.
do to get it out
Yeah.
in the newspaper, is get in contact with a reporter.
We will move to personnel and policy.
We did not meet.
I was going to say, I didn't think you guys met. Okay. 9 board member comments. Laura.
I just have one that is thanks for all the staff for all of the hard work they did, and appreciate everyone's effort to help celebrate and get ready for summer and graduation and 8th grade craziness, as well with trips and all of those things. I know we have a lot of staff and support for them that works really hard to help our kids have that adventure. So thank you.
Scott, did you? Yep. again.
There you
I am hoping that the policy committee can take some more time to review policies and not present them to us verbatim as we receive them. I really would hate, there's some scary language in some of these that are coming through, and I would hate for us to be opened up to a civil rights lawsuit. So, on a positive note, I attended the Day in the Life at the middle school. It was a great event. I really saw the individual teachers' personalities in their classrooms, which was really cool to see. The art was phenomenal. Like, we have some really talented kids at the middle school when it comes to art. So that was really well put together. One suggestion I would like to make is I really wish that was earlier in the year, because it was really neat to see my students' day and what they go through step by step. And to meet every single teacher, like when we have parent-teacher conferences early in the year, you meet just with the one teacher. You don't get to meet everybody and see all the different personalities, see the different classrooms and the learning environments. So to see that earlier in the year, I think would be beneficial. But it was a really great event. The other thing I wanted to say was I wanted to thank Ms. Rinko from the middle school for volunteering to put flowers at the Veterans Memorial in downtown Sabattis. I drove by with one of the volunteer students, and it was just really nice, and I wanted to thank her for doing that.
Anyone else? Diane?
I just want to say how proud I am of all of our students in this district. It's incredible the amount of things that they get to do in this district. Also, I got to go on a field trip with fifth graders to the Windsor Fair for an activity there. It was amazing. The kids were very well behaved. It was a lot of fun. And I'd like to say this to Mel. If you need something to cut out, just go to one of the lower grade teachers. There's a machine that cuts them all out.
She tried.
Oh, but maybe we need to get one of those for you.
Yeah. She did ask.
Anyone else? Doug?
I had comments. The Staff Appreciation Week, I have four children in 4 different schools, and they all have so many positive things to say about all of the staff in the schools. They love all the programs, and they talk very positive. I've not yet to hear them say anything negative about really anything. So I feel like that's very personal and specific. I appreciate what is going on and what everybody does, and I think you can't say it enough, that kind of thing.
Anyone else?
I can give it a shout out to Carrie Ricker. I was able to chaperone the Forestry Day, which had a ton of volunteers over at Smithfield Plantation, which is in Litchfield. So there's a ton of volunteers from Litchfield and around the state. The state biologist was there. Our teachers did an amazing job. The kids had a great time. And big kudos to the art team and music team over at Carrie Ricker. The event was awesome.
All right, so seeing as there's none, I will go ahead and call this meeting adjourned at 7:58.